Folks, we back again this week, Tuesday again. It's Creative Financing with JB. And this week's topic is going to be dealing with some financing, investment financing, investor playbook, some things we need to know, some things that we have to realize going out here in this market. It's so much to learn. It's so much to have. It might be a two-week session, but we're going to start on this week here and see if we can just touch the basics, some important stuff, what we're looking for, how do we get to the next step of the game, investment properties. We done bought our first home. We got through it. It might have been rough. It might have been easy, but long-term wealth comes through real estate. And we hear that so many times that real estate is how you get in the game. Real estate is how you make it to the next step. But we have to keep in mind that it's a detailed process to get done. And one of the first things I'm going to mention that we're going to talk about and keep this on your playbook is that credit. Credit's going to give you what you need to get to the next step. A lot of folks said, well, it don't make a difference. You know, I can get a loan with this asset base. You can do that. But for your best value and your best loan to value, it's going to be based on your credit. Can somebody get an investment loan with a 500 credit score? Absolutely. You can do that. Can I get a credit? Can I get a loan with a 600? Yeah, you can. You can. Can I get one with a 620? Yep, you can. 630, 640, 650. Bang, the game changed at 660. 660 credit score changes the game in the investment world. You know, if we's in the residential world, you know, you might hear 500, 10% down, 580, you go back to 3.5% down, manual underwrite, 620, you clean, you pretty good, you can get down payment assistance. But in an investor's world, 660 is the minimum where we want to be at. No ifs, ands, buts about it. It's going to be a lot better loan to value, and you're going to get some better returns. As far as doing fix and flips, yeah, you're going to get some, but you're going to get light work with less than a 660 credit score for your fix and flips, and they're not going to do a heavy rehab for that. So we got to remember that credit score is 660. I'm not talking about the top credit score. I'm not talking about the lowest. The middle credit score out of all three is what you want to have. So we want to put that on a playbook right now to figure out where we're at, what we can do to get to that 660 mark, because it's so valuable, and that's the first thing our investors ask. You know, what's your credit score? Oh, then what's the loan amount? Oh, then do you need rehab money, and so on, how much experience you have, and it keeps going on. But our first play tonight is a credit score. If you 660 credit score, you have a step in the game here. How do I find out that credit score? Where do I go to make sure it's legit? I'm going to give y'all my play. My second play of tonight is going to be myfico.com. www.myfico.com. You have to go to myfico.com, find out what your credit score is. Big play on that MyFICO. You're going to have not only your mortgage score, but you're going to have your credit card score, and you're going to have your auto score. But we're focusing on a mortgage score right now, because you're going to be within the range of where any investor going to pull your credit, and you're going to be right there at it. So get you a myfico.com. You're not going to be able to get it unless you get the subscription. Subscription, $40. I tell folks, if you invest in, $40 is not a lot of money to figure out where you sit with your credit score and how good you are doing with it. So you can be able to know when you have that conversation, we can be on the same page for it, and then we don't have to find some other solutions of how we're going to do it. So that credit score substantiates where we need to be, how we need to get there, and where we stand. We're at that 660 or better, and I'm going to give you the benefits of 660 or better. 660 or better is going to go from anywhere from 25% down and then closing costs to where you might even get some lenders based on the experience too. They might want 30% down. It just depends what type of loan we're trying to do. I'm talking about fix and flip here. If we're doing a DSCR, you're talking about maybe 70% down. You'll get the cash out. Or if it's a purchase, got a good credit score in the 700s, you're talking about maybe they can do 20% down. So that credit score really changes the mode of what we're doing here for that. So that turns to our loan to value for it. Hey, Chuck, and that loan of value is so important to how much money we're going to spend, how much money we're going to have out of pocket. So our credit substantiates that money that we're talking about out of pocket that we're going to use. First step in there, we want to start talking about where are we going to get this money for closing? Where are we going to get our down payment fund? Where does this money actually come up with? It's a lot of resources that we have to use, from using your home equity line of credit, to business credit, to savings, to retirements, IRAs, to portfolios that you might have to take other money out if you have other investment properties. But that money should be available in your business account for you. And I'm going to recommend that you have a business account for that so it can match that LLC you're probably going to put it in. So we have to remember that now we're talking about our credit score, making sure it tells us our loan to value of what they're going to invest in us on. And then we're going to see how much down we're going to need for that play when we're purchasing that property. And then we got to sit down and then we come to the conclusion of experience. Everybody has a first time. Everybody gonna have that one time that they going into your fix and flip. Hey, how we doing there? How we doing there, Big Art? How we go into our experience tells us how the investor looks at us. If it's our first time, are we going to be denied? No. We have investors that do first time home buyer, but your contractor would have to have some seasoning in the game. Your contractor would have to have some knowledge of what you're doing because they're going to draw up your scope of work to do if you're doing a fix and flip. For it. If it's an investment property, we're not going to need that contractor. If it's our first investment property, we're going to start looking at some other options of rents in the area with a 1007 and stuff to make sure that if we going to have a 1-to-1 ratio. 1-to-1 ratio mean our rent amount is equivalent to our monthly payment for that mortgage. So you hit a 1-to-1, 1.2, 1 to 1.2. So that means the greater amount of your rent, the better you have of that approval and the stronger stability you have. So what do I mean by that stronger stability? That means that if I have some money left over after my rent, I have some savings that I can put up to start making sure that when a rainy day comes, my tenant's not there if it's a DSCR loan, that I can still make that monthly payment. And the investor feels comfortable with that. They feel so good about that. Hey, Nicole, they feel great for it. Hey there, Kurt. For it. So we need to make sure that that 1-to-1 is good. But when we have a little extra, like a 25% over, 50% over, or we're doubling the rent that we're getting on, we're doubling the rent doubles the monthly payment, then we have an outstanding project for the DSCR loan. for it. But I want to retrack a little bit here now so we can come back. So we're going to come back, and we was at that money for down payment, for where we're going to get it from, how we're going to do it. This creative financing with JB. Give me a call. You're going to hit me up. I'm going to give you some solutions to how we come up with that money. You got perfect credit. You got somebody that's out there that want to give it to you and fund you on that first part. As you see my number go across there, 302-312-9860. Call me up so we can talk about ways to get that asset that you need to fund your loan, to be able to have money to close, to grow into that whole environment of being able to not wondering, am I have to borrow from here? Am I going to have to borrow from here, here? No, we can set it up where your first one go, and then you start going from there. You start collecting your rent if you get a DSCR. You get your fix and flip and your residual after you finish the project and finish it early. You start to put that up for your next project and for your next project. So your savings come into the to play right here, but you also got to have that great contractor to make sure that they on time with it. They're They're able to complete the project. They're able to finish, and they come with some type of somebody can represent, give them a good referral, or somebody can say, hey, he did my work, whatever. Like Curtis, I can go to Curtis. Curtis did my work. Boom. I recommend Curtis to go ahead come talk to you about this work. So you have somebody to stand behind you on that. What we doing. So that money, if you need the financing for it, I can do both parts of it, but it's good to understand how you can do it, because you probably don't have to do the business credit side of it. You can have another way to go. And as Steve said, it's critical to have that liquidity available for that and to be able to get that money. I encourage folks that once you have a backup fund and you got this fix and flip, you're not burning up all of your liquidity you're getting from your business credit that we're going to talk about when you call me. That money's available. It can do some things for you and get you situated, but it's a backup in case you have some fall short on the project. As you know, every contract is different. Everybody has different methods of doing stuff. Understand what's required when you're doing your fix and flip here with that money. So, because that's going to be so important for you to have that. So we focused on the credit here, and I'm just reiterating this so y'all will keep hearing it over and over. We focus on the credit, which deals with how much the loan of value is going to be, which deals with how much money we're really going to have for closing. And then we talked about experience and knowledge there for it. But guess what else comes with that experience and knowledge? The more you do, the less down you're going to need. I got an investor now say, if you got 11 flips in the last 3 years, we can do 90%. They just need 10% down. 90%. They're going to give you 90% loan of value. You're going to put 10% down. So, for example, if the project is 100,000 on the flip and 100,000 on a rehab, you come to with $10,000 in closing costs, and they give me 100% of that rehab money. That's a game changer right there. 10 to 20 changes a whole lot of things. So that means that your profit margin might be a little bit greater. It'd be less out of pocket. And if you have someone that's able to finish a project in a timely manner, it can save you money. So that's how big experience is. If you have 5 or more, you got 85% lenders that's really ready to do that and get that going. So you have those options there to get those done. Plus, you have a history of doing this. You're doing the scope of work. The investor's not going to care about you getting that done because they see the value in you doing it so long. So, Johnny, what proof do I need that I did it? You're going to need a HUD-1. You're going to need a HUD-1. You're going to need some type of settlement documents that you purchased that property and then you resold it. You kept it as a rental. It's going to be in your portfolio or something of that nature. Have those documents ready for you. So once you have that document in line, you're going to be able to say, hey, this is my history. This is my portfolio work. If you've been flipping for so long and doing a great job at it, save that thing in a folder someplace because it's always going to be used. It's always going to be needed. Those are your experience items that you're going to need. And this is just 101 for it. These are the experience items that they're going to ask for to show the proof. If you don't have that, let me see who your contract is. Let me see what he has done. Show me his track record. You're going to look at probably Steve and Andre on here. They have a long track record. You're going to go to them and they're going to be able to say, yo, I got 3 or 4 rentals. I did new construction here. I have the history of this. Guess what? That's when the investors say, okay, we got somebody that's going to guide them and they're going to walk through this process. And these people know what they're doing. They're not just hiring somebody that just went out there and their dad taught them how to do a little bit of plumbing work when they was a plumber and they going out there, or their dad taught them a little bit of electrical work. They did. We're talking about framing here. We're talking about running into issues that with the existing plumbing to redirect that, understand how to pull permits, all that. All that experience from your contractor is so valuable if you don't have the experience. Don't go into a job not understanding that your contractor don't have the experience. You might want them to JV, and you'll hear this term, joint venture with somebody. So what do I mean? I have contractors that season. I'm going to say, I'm like, hey, I got this guy, he's learning. Do you mind if he joint ventures with you on this project so he can start getting some experience? That's a perfect opportunity so you can start building that up for it. Got to be honest, the contractor said, no, I have my people in place for it, but that person's still going to have to get that experience little by little by little. And if you're new, please don't try to start out on the biggest project ever. Because remember, we talking about experience. No experience, you asking for $1 million, $300,000 for the purchase, $400,000 for the purchase, $300,000 for the rehab. You need somebody seasoned as your contractor if you didn't have it, because I promise you, more or less, they're going to probably say, no, we don't want to invest in that loan. Because what's the chances of you completing that project? What's the chances of you getting to the finish line on a timely? What's the point of you getting those drawers when you're supposed to get those drawers? What about the property just lingering there and you don't know what to do? So that's what that is. Sellers, what's leveraging seller financing is. Seller's financing is important as well for it. So the seller can also give you money to assist with closing costs. It can be 3%, it can be 2%. It depends on the bank. It depends on what experience you have as well. So that'll be another way to go. But seller might want to finance the property, the project. They might do a seller whole where they'll finance the purchase, and you have to have money for the rehab if that's the case. That's where experience comes in, because I guarantee that seller is leveraging his property, saying that you're going to do a good job, you're going to pull permits, you're going to do everything according to the guidelines that's required by your township, your city, or your borough, or wherever you might be. Those are important characteristics when we start doing that. Do it. But seller financing is also a good strategic method when you first starting out. and getting your feet wet and going there, because the seller might want to help you with the project to get it done, and then he gets return on the back end. So when the seller's leveraging his property, is some value there. So he doesn't want his property to be in worse shape than he gave it to you in. So you have to have that type of um, understanding. So we got the yeah, KJ, man. KJ is one of our finest lenders right there, watching and everything, from Lens Financial. He's a great asset we have for it. So and we're talking about being able to get these loan finance. So when we go there, if I'm a first time and I'm considering leasing the property, what is my options to purchase? I have a lot of options here if you're a first time lease, but I'm gonna tell you the first thing is going to be that credit score. As I said before, you're going to hear me say that 100 times tonight. That's going to be our first thing: our credit score, our ability to have some experience or experienced contractors is going to be the next step of the game. And we're going to have to find somebody like KJ that's going to take a chance on us. You know, we're going to have to find somebody that's going to take a chance on us and see what it really is for. But with some programs we got a bank statement financing for an investment. I know y'all heard that for your primary residence, but we talking about for your investment properties here. You got a profit and loss type of investment that we can do. We got the DSCR, we have the fix and flip, we have man, it's so many. It depends on the scenario of what we're doing, and everybody's different. Folks, everybody don't fit into the same basket. Everybody don't have the same appetite for this. So it's going to depend on what you have the appetite for. What do I mean by bank statement investments? I'm going to I'm going to ask you for 12 or 24 months of bank statements. I'm going to look at your deposits. I'm going to take out that stuff you done charged on there, that from those deposits that you paid bills with and stuff. And then I'm going to use probably 50% of that to see how much you really qualify for on those investments. Does that mean, since it says zero at the bottom, that we're not going to be able to, we don't have to look for no down payment assistance or anything? We're still going to need money to close. Folks, I want to take this myth out of the air right now. When people tell you you don't have to have any money, really understand what they mean by that. They mean any money for the rehab? Do they mean any money for the whole project? Because if they're telling you that, I'm going to tell you that that's false right there. We're going to need money for an appraisal. At least we're going to need money when you write that contract to put something down for it. So we're going to need some type of money. People might consider not a lot of money is you might need $3,000 down, $700-800 for appraisal, $4,000, not a lot of money for it. And then, not unless you get an investor that's gonna do 100% of the purchase, which a lot of folks, you got to have some skin in the game. If you're a newbie, you got to have some type of money available if you're going to go into this game here and use it. Now I want to talk about some of these options. I was talking about using some money from your primary residence. People say, "Oh man, you should never do that. It's not a good idea." This is investing here. This is a risk. And are we taking good risks for purchasing and investing in property? Yes, we are. For it, we have to be able to manage the project and have somebody to guide us through the process and give us some wise and constructive feedback. You got to be truthful with these people walking out here into this. Is this a nervous wreck? Yes. Am I going to have a contractor that might have walked out on me because we had a disagreement? It happens. Is it intentional? It's not. It's part of the business, but you keep moving and you make sure you keep that relationship where it is. For it. So you have to have that type of appetite for it. So taken from your primary residence, it's not a bad investment, but it has to be a wise investment. What do I mean by wise investment? I leverage and I understand all my obstacles that I'm gonna have to face. I done went through this, and I have a contractor that's reliable, that's gonna give me honest feedback. It's gonna tell me, no, I shouldn't be doing this. No, don't do this. This is what I should do, and give me reasons for it. Those are the type of people you're gonna have lined up. You're gonna have to have that in place. Gotta have that reserves and prepare for the unexpected. Kurt, you are so right. It's so many times that we get in these jobs and we done use our last nickel, and we start turning around and we start looking, and you'll hear somebody, anybody got some gap money? You hear that? Anybody got some gap money? Gap money is when you're in trouble. So gap money is covering gap money can mean two things. So let me say that gap money can cover the end of the project where you ran short for it, or it can handle in between that project when you fell short or you didn't account for something. So gap money fills in those holes that you didn't account for. So what should we do? Have some money put up. I told you you're gonna have them business funding. Sit some of that to the side. Don't just think that, hey, I got $50,000 here. I'm just gonna put 30 here and then 20 for my closing cost. No, put your minimum that's required, and then have some for your closing, have some left over so you can be able for any pitfalls that happen. The worst thing you can do on your first project is get in there and don't have nothing available for you when you run into situations. Because I'm going to be honest, if I'm the contractor and I'm working daily and doing my job every day, the last thing I want to hear is that you don't have no money to cover me as I'm doing this work here that needs to be done, that we talked about might happen if we didn't, do it because we didn't tear down that wall. We didn't know the plumbing in its wall was damaged. We just knew that everything was working. We didn't know we had a water leak here because it hadn't rained in so long. We didn't know that we had a issue on this type of stud here that's gonna kind of be on a lean bearing wall that might fall. Those things happen in this game, and guess what? We have to have money to think about that. Oh, I didn't know I need a fireproof wall here because I'm in a row home here. Those things happen. Be prepared for those. Have that extra money available for it. I had another question. Is it programs for veterans? It's programs, and it's availability for everybody depending on the loan that you're trying to get. So you have to sit down, call me with those discussions so we can talk through it. Call me so we can understand what's happening in these whole circumstances of financing. How do I finance those and don't have the whole scenario? So being your lender and your investor out here to help you get this money that you need for this, you just got to come clean with me. We got to have an honest to goodness conversation. Hey, Johnny, I fell short here. I messed up. I bought this property. I didn't expect this. I didn't know the zoning didn't cover this. And, this is where I'm stuck at. And I got to get this money so I can cover zoning, blah, blah, blah. Those type of discussions we have to have so we're able to say, hey, let's figure out how much it costs. We can put in the scope of work. We can see what needs to happen and figure out alternative ways to get that done. Always have the open conversation when it comes to getting your finances. Prior to it, do a good walkthrough. Do a good walkthrough of these properties, and you might have me say these guys' names because they on here, Steve and Andre. Take them with you. Take them to lunch. Say, hey man, can I take y'all to lunch? Because I want y'all to walk through this property with me and give me some ideas. You have to have that knowledge of it when you're going through it, because somebody sees something you probably won't see. And when you don't understand it, you need somebody to explain it. And when they doing it, hey, it's going to be done, and it's going to be some very, very good feedback. And guess what? Don't think these people time are always free. So that's why I said, man, see if they in the area, they want to go to lunch this day or something, so y'all can start building that relationship, and they can stop by and give you 20 minutes or 30 minutes if they in between something, to check their availability. Walking through that property to make sure we get the maximum amount of financing we need is so important. Don't come back and say, oh man, I didn't know that brickwork looked good to me when it was up there, until somebody started breaking the wall and start chipping the bricks. And, now we might have some structural issues. They took up the floor, and, something in the floor, the joist in the floor was kind of crooked all this whole time, and nobody never felt it like that. And now we stuck with doing some structural work here. All those things are important to have a viable contractor. And this is where a little bit of your spare money, it might not be a lot at the beginning, but it can prepare you for what you need to have, and why it needs to be like that, or how we get through it, and going from there. I also want folks to know that these folks that's out here giving you the feedback of the properties, just listen to them. If you're a first time investor and you go home, my brother said, nah, it don't work like that. Tell your brother to come out there, so that guy, that architect, that guy that's doing the work can explain, and they can see what they're talking about, because it can make sense. Because we all walk into stuff, and we can talk, but if we're not there, we don't see it. This is all 101 for fixing and flipping investment properties. Investment properties. I'm going to say this again, investment properties. Get a rent roll. You looking at an investment properties, get a rent roll. Make sure these people are paying on time. Make sure you have a history. Don't just get something on paper and say, oh man, they paid this date and this date. I want to see something that these checks cleared, or something from that bank. Not somebody drawing me out a little ledger of what happened and stuff like that. And I come to find out the rent ain't the same here. The lease ain't. Get that lease. Get that deposit. Where they holding that? Understand the full scope of work is critical to assign a value and timeline to the project. See, that is so true. For it. All these things. Hello, Aunt Debbie just stopped by. I love all you. Yes. Thank you, Aunt Debbie. We want to make sure that we get the best value and the best understanding, because guess what? We're looking for that after repair value. We're looking to see how much that property is worth after we finish, when it's done, and when it happened. But it's going to be important to understand that, KJ, intention, care, and accountability is key for long-term relationship. That goes both for the professional and romantic relationship. This is great. Thank you for the slide. That is so good. Long-term relationships in this thing. Don't cut people off when you're learning this. Understand that this is what this is built on. This is long term. Don't ask people about their prices and scope of works and stuff, because guess what? The time they're investing in doing this work, this is what makes sense. It's good to have a conversation. Say, hey, can y'all work with me on this instead of that? And once that happens, then they might say, well, you might can not do granite countertops or something like that. But people's not going to shortcut on plumbing, electric, or HVAC. It's no shortcuts to those. Those are valued money that you have to put in there that gives you the value you need when to be finished. Don't go out here and ask your contractor, just run that, do that half an inch instead of that full inch piping, right? No. Do not get them to take shortcuts on those items, because in the long run, something's going to happen. They're telling you to use those inch of pipes for a reason. They're telling you that you need that for a good purpose. Utilize their knowledge. They've been doing it for a long time. They have had the errors and of going through this thing and ran into these flaws and said, yo, this what I can make sure it never happen. Make sure you're flooring, you're not putting other type of stuff on flooring. That's why we talked about extra money around, because these things happen when we start getting in there to get the work done and making it happen. So we're getting the basics right here. Give me a call, 302-312-9860. If you don't have time to talk, just send me an email at johnny@creativefinancingwithjb.com. Also, Steve said the facts in the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing can be a life safety issue if not done correctly. That's totally right. And guess what? I'm going to give it even. If that's one of your contractors, they pull a permit, they're on the hook for that. If that house burnt down, they're going to find out who did that work. They're going to look into that. They're going to make sure that that work was done, and they're going to have to answer those questions. You know, we got an issue where the whole electric panel burn up. How did the electric panel burn up and we had an inspection from the city or something like that? I've been there and I did that. It's time for me to chill out now. No, you're doing fine, Mitch McNeil. Those items are so important because you risk the safety of your family or whoever family's living in that property. And what you should do. How do I go out and I scout for a location for an investment property? You got to do your homework. You got to go out there with somebody that has some experience, somebody that's going to probably be a contractor, somebody you have, as KJ said, have a relationship with, and say, hey, you know, I'm getting in the game. I'm going to go to Andre. Andre, I'm getting in the game, man. Can you help me out? This is my thought process. Can we have a conversation? Those conversations, yeah, come on, let's talk about it. Let's sit down, have lunch. Let's sit down, break some bread. Let's talk. You want some coffee? All those help in this process of understanding what to do. Oh, Steve, you know, I know you've been doing a lot of stuff in Philly. You know, can you tell me about this area and what's your thoughts on it? You know, I'm looking at this property. Boom. Let's go with it. Steve, you know, you available this time, you know, so we can look at it. Listen to those guys, because if they're in those areas, if they're subject matter experts, utilize their knowledge. They know. If I'm going to Maryland, I'm finding somebody that's familiar with that area. I don't want to go on a block and I see all these houses and they selling them for $2,000. If I'm not buying a whole block, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to buy that one house and I got 12 other abandoned buildings there unless somebody can give me some knowledge of what's going on in that area and I have that relationship. So we talking about finding people that are valuable to your projects, that are a necessity into getting into this investment game. Why is this investment game so big right now? Why is it important? We see today where we stand. We see that people are going to need places to live wherever they are in life. We know that people can go out here and try to find these jobs. But if I'm able to start investing in property and start to grow my portfolio, it gives me the opportunity to substantiate my income. It gives me a chance to be able to be a good landlord and have some good rental property there. You know, hey, Mel, for this stuff. This is all important out here because we see jobs getting lost. Economy's getting funny, you know, but you know, housing is always necessary. If I'm either gonna do Section 8, if I'm gonna do private pay, if I'm gonna have an apartment building, if I'm gonna have a mixed use where I have an office and apartments above me, if I'm gonna have a restaurant and apartments above me, if I'm gonna have a 50 unit complex, all of those are money generating properties that you can have. Somebody said, what should be my first investment property here? My first investment property, and I tell somebody, consider a duplex. Oh, why a duplex? You never owned before? You live in one section and you rent the other section, other people's paying the mortgage. You're saving money now so you can get the next investment property. What do I do then? I'm saving up this money. Everything's working out fine. I'm maintaining it. I got a hang of it. I'm moving out. I'm going to get my next home. I'm going to rent that now. So now guess what? I have two rents. One's paying for this and the other one's probably paying for the one I'm living in. So now I have sources of income rolling, but yet alone, if I'm still working and my job lays me off, then that works. If you're new to the Go, check out the areas nights and weekends. That's right. If you're new to the game, drive around. Everybody does it. It might seem strange to drive around the areas, see what you notice is open for that to get into this game. But I recommend duplexes for your first one, where you live in one and then you have a tenant in another one that's paying rent. That can suffice what you're paying there for your mortgage. You might have to put a couple of dollars to it, but you put somebody else in there. You don't put nothing to that. It's self-generating rent for it. If one move out, you still got the other one paying rent. You got your own property. You're still in a good thing. You find another tenant. Make sure that property's maintained over and over and over again. That gives you a start. If you out here and you haven't been in the game for a long at all, and you have your big house, you paying this big mortgage, and you're trying to get this, and you saved up a lot of money, think of duplexes. Because if somebody don't pay, you got have somebody else that can substantiate that amount of money, and that's a good investment. That's a wise move, so you won't put yourself in a situation where you're struggling, you don't know what to do. Consider Section 8. People say, "Oh man, I don't want to mess with that government stuff." It's money. If I'm getting if my rent's $1,800. The government's giving me $1,675, and the people supposed to pay me $125, and they don't pay me. Will that money cover my mortgage? And I just go ahead and let them know, "Hey, you behind." You have to do that. You have to go ahead, and once you do that, you have money coming in. And follow up, and then you can give them notice and let them know where they're at. But a lot of times, I want to believe people's not intentionally don't want to pay their rent. They run into hard times and they can't afford to pay their rent, and then they run a situation. That's where the conversation has. That's why I recommend that if we're going to do something like that, Section 8, duplex. That's my theory. That's my thought on it. Not unless you have a ton of money saved up, and then you got to figure out, how long will I be able to last if they don't pay me money? How long will I be able to make it until I start jeopardizing my credit? Because remember, our credit's the first thing, and it can hinder us on the next thing. Those things are so important. For it. Something else you might want to consider, and people say, "Oh man, it's crazy." What about a trailer? What about a trailer? A trailer is affordable living for some folks. For where they can't pay $2,000 a month, but if you get a trailer, trailer's paid for it, and lot rent's right there for it. And we got to get park approval to do that. You might be able to get somebody in a 3-bedroom trailer, 1.5 bath, $1,600 a month instead of the $2,000, and then you making a profit on it because your trailer might be paid for if it's $30,000-$40,000 if you got some savings like that, and then you just focus on lot rent, $700-$800. Lot rent can be up to $1,000. I don't know where it's at. I don't know what lot rent is, for what area, but think of that, because now if you If you're just paying probably on a $40,000 loan, maybe $200 something a month, then you got a lot rent, $800. You still got $1,600 that the people's paying. So you got $600 profit that you're setting up and recouping your money for it, because at some point in time you pay off that trailer after it is. Look at this event too. You're going to look at the return on your investment of what you put down and what you spend over a 3-year span. So your rent over 3 years, you should be able to recoup most of your investment that you put into that property for it. So those are some numbers that you want to consider for it. Is purchasing land a good investment? It's a perfect investment, as long as you have the money. How many people think they know how much we're going to finance on an empty lot? You got great credit, lot, you're going to get drawings and everything. Just to purchase the land, a lot of lenders is only going to finance 65% of that land. 65. So you got to have 35% in your pocket. Just an easy number, $100,000 for the land. They're going to give you $65,000. You got to have $35,000 plus closing costs. So those are numbers. You might get 70. You might get 70% on a lot. That's on a good day, good economy, good situation that we're in. For it, it is a good investment, but you got to make sure that land is perked. Is certain things that have to happen to have some property there. We don't want to invest in land and we don't do nothing with it, because guess what? We got $35,000 sitting there, not doing nothing for us, and we are hoping that something change, and we're going to try to get another loan and start to do a lot of stuff. So we need to think about a construction loan when we start buying land. Hey, how we doing, Isabel? Man, it is so much when we start talking about this investment game. I want to give folks the opportunity to understand one thing, and I want to reiterate the first 4. Credit, where we are, for that dictates the loan to value we're going to get on that property. Then we're going to dictate the financing we're going to get. And once we do that, we talk about experience. Experience is everything. Experience is what you have to have. But we have to have a conversation here. This Johnnie Bazemore, 302-312-9860. It is always a good time to have a conversation about those type of situations that we go through and that we're trying to invest. We're trying to get into this investment game. We have to sit down, talk about it, put some things on paper, and dissect everything. Looking at property, driving around in the area at night, during the day, having a good realtor. Having a realtor that understands the market that you're getting in. Having someone to do the research of your investment, of what's going on. Is this going to be a good one? Is it going to be a bad one? Am I going to get my return? What's the history in here of this area? Should I go private? Should I be doing Section 8? All those comes from the area you're going to start to live in, and where is it growing up at? How's it coming up? How's the community doing? What's it doing for it and everything? And it's a big thing. I'm going to jump on a topic here for 10 minutes, and this one's hot. It's commercial. It's commercial. I'm a big advocate. We sure will talk I'm a big advocate of commercial. Commercial property seems overwhelming, but it's within your reach. It's able to be done. It's able to understand how to do it. What's a good way to do commercial? If it's your own business, this is a nugget for you right now. If it's your own business and you're putting it into that property, SBA. I believe in SBA. I'm a firm believer of that 10-15% without any experience in a commercial property. What am I talking about? Commercial property. I'm talking about 5 to 8 units, maybe bigger building with my storefront, with my business at the bottom or something like that. I'm talking about assisted livings. I'm talking about nursing homes. I'm talking about my practice as a doctor. I'm talking about my practice as a nurse. I'm talking about my strip mall where I have my office there. Those type of commercial properties, SBA. I'm talking about my daycare that I'm doing. Those are huge investments with SBA. SBA can give you, with no experience, they'll go 15% because the government's backing you, long as you have the liquidity for that closing cost and to show reserves. Oh, I said a word I didn't say before, reserves. Reserves is important, as we talked about before, you know, for the stuff and go from there. But yeah, reserves is so important for it that we have that money available for SBA. Commercial is huge for it. I love commercial. It's a good investment. It's a good return on your dollar for what you have to do. I don't want you to walk away from a big mega building and don't think you can get it financed. Call me. Let's have a conversation. Let's throw some ideas together so we can walk through that and get an understanding what we're going to do there, how we're going to make it, how's that going to generate income, how much income is that going to generate, do we have some revenue numbers for this type of structure in this area, and go from there. And it's so important to have that. Is my rent and all my leases gonna cover my mortgages out here for this commercial? I see so many empty commercial buildings around. There's so much stuff we can do that we can have our businesses in there. We can have strip malls, mobile home parks. Owning a mobile home park. Think about that. Those are commercial aspects that we can look at. 5, 10, 15, $20 million. Don't get scared at the M's behind there, because guess what? You're going to have the money coming in. We're going to structure that business accordingly and make sure that it's right for this stuff. Those are key to what it is out here in the commercial realm, and building. Think of having your own subdivision. I mean that's a big dream for some folks of being a builder, developer. If you have that unique for it, and goes from there. Though commercial is, man, I can talk about commercial forever. For when we start talking about the rents for the CAM fees, and you start going into what we call, fixed assets. That's right, Chuck. You got to dream big. You got to go beyond your expectation. I tell you, successful people have the most uncomfortable feeling and you can't ever see it, because they're out there and they looking for the opportunity to just excel, and their nervousness has them succeeding to the next level. And what causes that? It's the uncomfortableness. You thinking, you're being creative, you're trying to be resourceful to find those avenues of what we need to get to that next step, to get to that next realm, to get this done. Commercial buildings are still a big asset. People said people's not going back into work now. People's not using. We're going back into work. We have other things we can use commercial buildings for, and we don't want to limit that. For churches, financing for churches might be another avenue we might look at for SBA. But staying comfortable in order to be great, Chuck. That's what this is about. That's why I want y'all to be able to give me a call, 302-312-9860. Let's start talking about your investment. Let's start talking about your legacy. Let's start talking about passing on wealth. We got an event at Dell State coming up on Saturday. This is another nugget for you. Building Black Wealth Tour at Delaware State University from 9 to 3. Come on out. You'll meet some folks that's out there that's going to help you get to the next step of the game. That's going to encourage you to keep pushing forward, to pass on that legacy of what's happening. Keep it going, keep the fire, keep the energy going. Don't stop. Don't never think that you're in a box. Get outside the box, jump outside the box, stand on the ground and claim it. I own this. This is mine. This is what's going to be able to happen when we get out there. Being able to stabilize our minds and our thinking on there. And once you do it, you'll say, wow, I have reached that next level of success. And guess what? I'm starting to become independent. But folks, I mean, it's up to you what you want to do. I'm willing to have the a conversation with you. Couldn't even get the word out. I'm willing to sit down, do some consulting with you. It's no fee. It's no money. You ain't taking me to lunch. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. If the conversation get more into depth, we can reach out. We might have to break a little bread together and something. But it's always a good way to move forward in our careers. It's always a way to promote what we want to do, because they used to always tell me this, nothing come to a sleeper but a dream. But the dreamer that takes advantage of and moves is what makes him successful, that makes him uncomfortable, that takes the risk to go out there to invest in these properties and get the legacy. We all probably have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. It's never too late to invest. Don't look at failure as something that's not going to happen. We see how many people fail so many times. But guess what? They're successful. They're successful because guess what? They didn't give up. They didn't stop at that track. Investing in yourself is the best investment you can do. If you're out there and you're working for someone else, they invested in their business. They believed in it. You're believing in their business. Believe in your vision. I want to see y'all out there Saturday so we can finish this conversation on our Black Wealth Tour. NARAB's going to happen in 100 cities throughout the United States, 100 cities. And we're going to talk about building Black wealth, owning a block, keeping grandmother's house, and keep going. And yes, Mr. McNeil, get married, pass that vision on to your spouse. Let them know that, hey, this is what this is all about. It's a great opportunity. Folks, give me a call. This is Creative Financing with JB, 302-312-9860. If you need to email me, it's Johnnie, JOHNNIE, at creativefinancingwithjb.com. So we can sit down and have a talk, set up a time where we can figure out some things so we can pass on a dream, and the dream will come to us more fluently and it becomes a reality. The reality is that y'all have some gifts in you that you're not letting out and putting on the table. Relinquish those gifts, relinquish that knowledge of what you believe can happen so you can step forth in it. Start looking for those properties. Start preparing your credit so it can be established. Understand the process of getting your credit to a good score of 700, 750, 800. Don't stop at that 700. Just keep pushing forward. So we know that we are reaching excellence. We are reaching a time where we're going to grow so big and we're going to pass on a legacy that people are going to ask us how we did it. We had to do it. Somebody has to do it. Steve, man, I thank you for attending. Steve's a great contractor. He's an architect. I mean, he does it. People believe in what Steve does because guess what? He had his own vision. Folks, we're going to keep talking about this. We're going to ingrain this so somebody can take that step to the next step and don't stop where you think you have not accomplished nothing. Your goals are right before you. So start preparing yourself for that next step of the goal. Next week, I might do a part 2 on understanding the commercial realm. The 10, and I'm going to do 10 things you'll need to focus on when you start looking at commercial property. the things that will set us above all the rest, the lenders that's out there to get us to the next step. Because somebody want to say yes to you. And today I want to say yes to you. Give me a call. We'll be talking. You reach Johnnie Bazemore. Again, this Creative Financing with JB. I thank y'all for participating this week. Next week, we'll do it again. Y'all have a great evening.